Okay, so you stated that government has retained the legal services of a firm in the US. So let's just start firstly by why was this necessary?
I do not think that St. Lucians fully understand the impact of the allegations made by the United States State Department on the extrajudicial killings that are alleged to have taken place in St. Lucia. It has caused us some disrepute. Obviously, countries are concerned about our integrity. It's not known for St. Lucia to be fingered on matters like that. But there's another dimension to it. We have now moved to establish a citizenship by investment program. And obviously, it's important that as we market St. Lucia, that persons who express interest in the citizenship by investment program feel that they're dealing with a country that is respected. They're dealing with a country with integrity, with character, with honor. And no one is going to want the citizenship of a country that they feel that is compromised in any way. For us, the U.S. is exceedingly important. It's vital, of course, that we resolve the issues that we are concerned about, and we need to convince the U.S. State Department as well as U.S. lawmakers that St. Lucia is taking active steps to resolve the matters pertaining to the extrajudicial killings, or the so-called extrajudicial killings. Sometime, therefore, last year, we decided that it is vital that, in addition to the support that we get from our ambassador, to retain a firm of lawyers, Squire Patton Boggs, to represent us with these lawmakers as well as with the State Department. And they are important not only because they will provide us with the channels for some of the discussions that we need, but at the same time be in a position to champion the progress we have made in dealing with the issue, complex and difficult as it is.
Okay, in terms of costs, I know that's always a concern for people. So can we talk about how those costs are being met or will be met?
In effect, it's a tidy sum. To retain the firm of lawyers is going to cost us about $150,000 US. But the good thing is that we will not be footing that bill. Following the decision by the Citizenship by Investment Board to retain Alison Capital as one of the agents to undertake marketing on our behalf, Alison Capital drew attention to the concerns about the impacts report in the United States. They had also retained that firm, Squire Patton Boggs, in the US, to do due diligence for us in the United States on potential applicants to the CIP. And they said, listen, we need to ensure that we deal with this matter involving the extrajudicial killings. We need to ensure that the sanctions are lifted. And we have interest precisely because a number of countries that are going to look at St. Lucia as an investment location will also be concerned that we resolve the issue on the alleged extrajudicial killings. And therefore, they agreed to provide support to the government of St. Lucia by way of financing Squire Patton Boggs for us. Because as I said, it's a tidy sum, $150,000 US, and for that kind of money to come out of our budget at this time would have been almost impossible, because this, as you know, is a very difficult situation for us. Now, there are some requirements that the firm has to satisfy in the U.S. One is that since they're lobbying on our behalf, they have to register with the United States. And so if you go onto the usual website where such information is kept, you will notice that Squire Patton Boggs, that is the firm, they've actually registered the fact that they are representing the government of St. Lucia in this matter. So I think that the effort by our marketing company, Alison Capital, is really a welcome effort, and I fully understand what they're saying, that look, we need to ensure that we maintain the reputation of this country as a pristine country, a country that people can believe in, people can accept that it is a country with integrity and it is a country with character. And therefore, we need to ensure that as quickly as possible we make some progress on this matter with the United States. And I think the offer was a great offer, a wonderful offer, and I couldn't refuse. So the government of St. Lucia is very pleased that we are able to get that kind of support from this marketing firm.
Okay, and PM, if
Sure.
everything that you've just
Sure.
told me, I know one of the criticism was that why do we have to hire a law firm? Are you hoping that the public will understand why it was absolutely necessary to secure the services of a U.S.-based firm to handle this situation?
First of all, it's a credibility issue. I mean, if you have a U.S. firm that the United States Department of State can relate to, then of course that is helpful to us because it gives us strategic access. You get a solution firm to try to do that in Washington. I mean, they don't. I doubt very much that they'll be very familiar with Washington. The lawmakers of Washington would know how to get access to the U.S. State Department. I mean, in a sense, what's happening here is that we are utilizing the services of a legal firm that is also a lobbying firm as well. And you really need intimate information of the environment, and you need to have easy access to the key players, and hence the reason why the government accepted this offer and was very anxious to retain the services of Squire Patent Box.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Let's
Sure.
just, before we leave, speak about one issue I know that's of grave concern locally, and that's the issue of suicides and the alarming increase in the number of suicides locally. Is there anything that you would like to see, I mean, to the families of those? We know we had this young lady from a local telecoms firm just last week. We have another suspected suicide that took place yesterday. What's your view on what's taking place?
It's troubling and very distressing. It's a complex issue. And I know that each time when we have confronted with a suicide, and we all search for answers, explanations. And as is often the case, sometimes we look for the easiest explanation for the particular event. I think the issues do not always admit of easy answers. I mean, I've heard the argument, for example, that some persons are driven to suicide because of unemployment. Obviously, we have had cases where people are employed, yet they resolve their particular problem, their anguish, by way of suicide. I think it is particularly worrisome that most of the suicides, well, I shouldn't say most, but quite a few have taken place in Bamolo. That is strange, it is unusual. I don't know the reasons for that. I don't know whether the first few acts are resonating in the community and therefore others feel that that is a route to take. I mean, it's a matter that I certainly want to have some discussions with the parliamentary representative to get a better understanding of why this is happening. But I believe that these incidents send out a larger message to us, all of us in this country. In much the same way, for example, we need to be very worried about the incidents of rape. So too, we need to worry about the incidents of suicide, because it may be a signal that we are not caring for each other as we should. The fact of the matter is that we have to learn to identify persons who are in distress in our societies and be able to reach out and touch them and see whether somehow we can offer them the opportunity to share their pain, to share their distress, to share their anger, and perhaps dissuade them from taking that solution. And it is something that we need to think about. I know that there are some agencies that have been set up to reach out to individuals, but sometimes you need more than a telephone conversation. You need to meet persons face to face, and to enter into their spirit, their heart, their souls, to try to understand the complexity of the situation. Depression is a terrible condition. And of course we know that there are medical dimensions to it, and sometimes these persons require medical help. But when they don't even get the medical help that they need, then they have to live with their anguish and then look for an easy way out to resolve the problems that they have. So it is very troubling. It's depressing and disproportionate, really. I want to take the opportunity to really express my condolences to the young man's family, and indeed to the families of all of the persons who have had to go through this traumatic experience. It's not easy just for the individual to have summoned the courage to take his or her own life, but also for the families who are left behind because they live with the scars for a very, very long time. And for them, it may always remain a mystery, because I noticed that in a number of these cases, the victims do not leave any notes or explanations behind as to why they took that particular route, which of course makes the event even more complicated and more difficult to comprehend. So it's a for me, it's a very troubling matter.
Just one final
Sure.
question along that same topic. I know, of course, this is not a situation that's unique to St. Lucia by any stretch of the
Not at all.
imagination
I mean,
so far.
The UK, for example, has a high number of suicides per year. And in fact, as a result of what was happening here in St. Lucia, I actually did some research on suicides elsewhere, and I targeted the UK because they have a disproportionate number as well.
Right, and also even in Guyana a few weeks ago, President Granger had to institute some emergency measures. So do you think, is it premature, is it too early to say that we probably need that sort of, to take...
Well, we have to learn from the experiences of other countries who've had to deal with the issue. I mean, as I said to you, following the events, I had an opportunity to do some research in the UK. And incidentally, I noticed that there are now a number of television programs out of the UK exploring events and incidents in the past to try and get a better understanding. I think what is clear is that we may not appreciate the medical dimensions of the problem, that we believe that it is a social problem by and large, but there are deeper and more complex issues, and the key thing is to be able to identify the depression that leads to that final step. So we have to learn from the experiences of other countries to deal with our own problems, but in a sense it shatters the very idyllic life that we have.